to enjoy an evening of terror.
Who's there?
Cover her face with the mask of Satan. Horror Italiano.
Dario Argento's opera.
Welcome to another episode of Horror Italiano. I am Joe, the psychologist, as always, joined by my dear brother, Rick. What's good? How you doing tonight?
What up, my brother? I'm doing good. We got another Dario Argento classic, and this was a first watch for Ricky Grimes.
Same for me. So this is going to be another one where we're going to give you guys basically our first impression. And I almost went back to do a second watch, and I said no, because I told Rick, if we do a first watch, let's just go in with the first watch. We'll rewatch it again.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
that
I'll
way
have
we
to,
can-
yeah.
Yeah, especially after we talk about it, you know, what are we talking about? Oh, we didn't tell you that yet. So, as Rick said, it is a Dario Argento movie. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Opera, 1987, directed by Dario Argento, written by Dario Argento and Franco Ferrini, starring Christina Marcellak as Betty, Ian Charleson as Marco, Daria Nicolodi as Maria, and Urbano Barberini as Inspector Alan Santini. Betty, a young opera singer, is being stalked by a deranged fan that is killing the people associated with her so that he can make her his own. All right, Rick, this one was a little bit different. The killer take the person and watch the murders happening, the way that he kept her from keeping her eyes open. Why do you think that originally when you were watching this, that the murderer was having Betty watch? And what did you think of the way that he was forcing Betty to watch these murders happen?
I think as far as a story structure and the narrative, I think it was just a clever way to make not only Betty but the viewer uncomfortable, because the fact that when something atrocious is happening right in front of you, your first instinct is to shut your eyes, and the fact that you can't and you're forced to watch that, I think that just hits on a different nerve. Behind the scenes now, Dario Argento always had a joke saying he's gonna hand everyone who goes into the theater to watch his films a little thin piece of scotch tape with needles on them and place them under their eyes, so when the scary scenes happen, they can't look away. But of course, he wasn't really gonna do that, so he said, you know what, I'm gonna put that in a fucking movie. Here we go, opera, he did it. So that's the background on how the idea
Dude,
came
that's
with the needles.
genius.
Yeah.
I found that to be genius.
So it's a
Okay.
metaphor, you know, just don't turn away. You can't turn away. And again, when you're forced to watch and you can't look away, it's almost as if like your freedom is ripped from you. Your eyes want to look away, but you just cannot. You're forced to watch. So the trauma that's happening at that time, because not only are you experiencing somebody get brutally slain in front of you, and somebody that you know, it's not some stranger, and you can't close your eyes, because if you do, you're gonna get fucked up. So that's a double whammy right there, man. That's gonna fuck with you, bro.
See, and the other part is the way that he binded her. It's a row of sewing needles. So every time she blinked, it would just keep poking into the eyelid. Me, I was worried that, you know, one was going to be in a different angle and actually you were going to see it go into her eyeball. Look, I was waiting for that. I really thought, because it just felt like a teaser, especially how many times you got the close-up of it. Tying her up, whether it was the chair or when he put her in the case, I thought that the case one out of all of them was the more, besides violent, the better of the kills in here.
Let's be real. If this was a Lucio Fulci film, them pins would have got jammed up in those eyeballs, bro.
Even if she didn't want to look, she couldn't even turn away either. Like, he took away every single way that she can look away from watching somebody die. I mean, it drove me a little nuts. However, just how she would not seek more help after the murders.
Yeah, it's weird how she wouldn't say, like, someone was just killed in my apartment. Like,
Yeah, it's a little, you know, we'll as when we go to wrap it up.
It's a
see,
Dario
what about
Argento
this-
film.
I know, but I wear contacts. I have contacts in now, so putting something in your eye, like, I'm okay. Like, I can pop in a contact in and out with no problem. I got an eyelash in my eye, and it's like you put a fucking knife in my eye. So you got to see what she was looking at when she looked through her eyes with the row of needles. So you got that aspect of what it felt like to blink your own eyes and see that. I just thought that just the way that he was doing all that, it was great. It was great for the story. I kept trying to think of other movies where the killer who was stalking what could possibly, because for me, I thought that she was going to eventually be a victim. But making her watch everybody else die, knowing that I'm still going to get you. Like, this is how easily I'm going to get you.
And
but I'm going to kill all your...
too, not just random people,
That's what I'm saying. I'm going to kill everyone close to you first, and you're the last.
A brilliant opening, too, when the film starts with the Raven's eyeball and the reflection, just to kind of give you a heads up. Yeah, eyes are going to be pretty important.
Oh,
in
yeah.
This
and
film,
then,
man.
Well, now that you mentioned the Ravens, too, also. When the movie starts, it starts with that, and then it just keeps panning out, and you're
amazing camera work, by the way, dude. Oh, man.
Because as the camera started panning out, and you got more view of the Raven, you kind of knew that was a Chekhov's gun. Like, the Ravens were going to come into play, especially how much they were pissing off the diva, who Betty took over the role after she got hit by the car outside. And interestingly enough, because I looked it up, because I had heard of crows, and ravens also have that same photographic memory. I watched this whole special. This guy had basically followed this crow and showed it knew visual cues, it recognized them in spots, and it was used in this movie. And the way that it was used was yet another little brilliant nuance. After he kills the boyfriend, he then kills 3 of the ravens, and all of the other ravens saw who the killer was. And Marco had come up with the brilliant idea of, we're going to use the ravens. I was not expecting how dramatic it was going to be, honestly. It was a little bit weird with the cage coming through in that scene.
Great scene. Shot
but it threw
to perfection.
It happening, it took everyone in the audience out of their place in that moment because they were watching the play. So they're sitting there, what the fuck? So he caused a shock moment to let the birds go out, and that one raven just flying around, and I'm like, he is right.
Marcos was instructed earlier in the film, after the ravens were found murdered, he was told that ravens have a photogenic memory and they remember faces. These are some fictive motherfuckers, bro. Very vengeful, man.
What did you think of how that all played out?
It was clever. It was shot very well. Very disorienting, and it felt like you were almost on a roller coaster ride. The way the entire opera room kept circling with the camera work, and you're following through the Raven's POV, then you see the POV from the actual audience members, and it's bouncing back and forth. And
that's what I was gonna say.
You're like, what's going on? It's very chaotic, and that's the feeling that Argento is trying to convey. He wants you to be on your toes. You want it to be like, holy shit, what's going on? Because that's the kind of filmmaker he is. He's just not a guy that's just gonna put images on screen just to do them. He wants to invoke an emotion out of you, and he wants you to, even if you feel uneasy, queasy, or entertained, it don't matter. As long as you're evoking some sort of emotion. And this scene, it proves it, because it was very dizzying at points.
It was.
Vertigo inducing, but you just can't look away, man. It was
you can't.
Great.
Well, and as you said, you got the bird's POV. So the shots kept going back and forth between the bird, flying through the crowd, and then him looking. You were getting the bird's eye view, literally, of him finding the killer. It was revealed to be the inspector. Before I ask you, did you guess the murderer? Did you like how the murderer was revealed?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. It's such a fascinating reveal. I've never seen it. It's never been done before. And the fact that, Marco came up with this plan because he remembered what they told him about the Ravens. And the fact that it actually worked, you know what I'm saying? That was cool. It was very original. And yeah, I dug that. It's pretty cool.
Well, when they were pecking at his face is what I mean. Like the bird, the raven attacking his face and pulling his eyeball out. Because, Italians love the eyeball, man.
You see the raven in the camera flooding around. Then as the camera pans and you see who he's attacking, you're like, It's the inspector.
So did you guess that?
I knew. Yeah, I knew who it
You
was
did guess the inspector?
immediately.
Yeah, this one got me too.
Listen,
I
the
didn't
moment that the inspector went to Betty's room, claiming to be a fan, and she's like, "Oh, so you're an inspector, not a fan?" And he's like, "Why can I not be a fan as well?" I was like, "Yeah, this is your killer." Right here. I mean, we've seen enough Italian. I mean, this is pure giallo, by the way, so you know the biggest fault a writer can do in a film like this is reveal a killer that had nothing to do with any of the plot points going forward. If it's a character introduced out of nowhere, that's a fucking fail. Whenever there's a killer that you don't know who it is, they always give you the killer somehow. Go back to Deep Red, it was the mother, and of course they showed her earlier on in the film in a very subtle way, and here they showed the inspector. By the way, you recognize who that guy was, right? The inspector was played by the lead character from Demons, the guy on the motorcycle with the sword.
No, that was him. It's funny because he looked really, really familiar. I didn't look it up because I didn't want to try to find a whole bunch on the movie. I didn't guess it. I did think it was Marco for a hot minute. His reveal for his reasons was yet another thing that was pretty interesting because, as it turns out, which kind of makes it a little on the creepy side, truthfully, he had been sleeping with Betty's mother, but not just that, he had been killing people for Betty's mother.
She was evil.
Betty's mother was evil, and he was trying to get her affections, and to get her affections was basically killing these women so she can witness this.
She molded him.
Basically. And then you were getting the nightmare that Betty said she was having, which was actually a traumatic moment that she just kept replaying in her dreams. So for him going from mom to now he wants Betty when he knew Betty was like 8 years old, it's a little on the creepy side.
I took that a completely different way. To me, it was never sexual, because if it was, he would have attempted something. And if he really was hateful towards Betty, he would have killed her a long time ago. I think
Well, no, I don't think he was hateful. I think he was trying to replace the mother.
But yeah, Betty, upon seeing her, reminded him of her mother. And he wanted a piece of that back. So he wanted to grab Betty and kind of like, you know, I don't know if it's get a piece of his former life back, because he was in love with her mother at one point.
He was trying to reverse the roles.
Yeah, exactly.
He was trying to reverse the mother did that to him. So now he was going to do that to her because he thought she would be just like the mother. You know, he knew Betty since little. It's not that like he wanted her sexually in that way. It's just, so the mom did this to him. She reminded him so much of the mother. Now he wanted her to be the mother for him. It's just kind of all sick, psychological, twisted, kind of fucked up movie, to be honest with you. And I dug it. I mean, this is why we're watching these movies.
Yeah, because the mother made him kill. Then he killed her because he was over it, because he did not like what she turned him into. But upon, you know, seeing Betty again, it's his former lover, and it just sparked that killer instinct of him, that evil side of him reawakened once he laid eyes upon Betty. And I love when he was up on the balcony. He snuck into the expensive seats, by the way. My man was like, "Hey, let me see your ticket." The guy was like, picked him up, threw him on the fucking coat hanger, right back of the neck.
He bashed him a couple of times. And he was trying to...
Great kills in this movie, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
we'll talk about that before we wrap up. I got something to say about that.
Mira, her manager, who, by the way, did you know that she was married to Dario, and that the actress who plays Mira is Asia Argento's mother? You
That's
knew that?
her mother?
Yeah, that's her mother. I recognized her from Deep Red. So when I looked at, I'm like, what? This actress appears in a couple of other movies.
In case you haven't noticed, a lot of the actors in all these movies somehow always bleed into one another. That's pretty cool.
Mira was there with Betty, and it turns out that the killer had killed the cop. They're both trying to get away from him, and she looks through the peephole. He fucking blows her brains out.
Great scene.
The way it was done.
That slow motion when the bullet enters her eye socket, right through the back of the brain, and you see it's all slowed down. You see like Betty in the foreground, Mira in the background getting fucking blasted.
Yeah.
Excellent shot. And the way even the sound slowed, everything was like paused in that moment just to see her last final breath, man.
Because it was violent. It was violent. Not violent like the other ones. Just the way it was shot. And again, 1987. You know, this is not CGI.
Mind you, as well, too. You didn't know if that was the killer behind the door or if the killer was the cop inside. All of a sudden, when that gun got pulled out, you heard the cop. Oh, my God. Yeah, good shit.
There was so much tension anxiety, them trying to get away. Is he in here? Is he out there? It's so much confusion. Bellissimo.
Daria Nicolodi, right? The reason why she took this role, because she was apprehensive at first, because her and Dario wasn't on the best terms at this point. It's because of that elaborate death scene, bro. She was like, you know what? Her character was kind of shallow, not too much about it, but that death, man. Even on script, she was like, I have to do this. The other kills I want to give a quick little highlight to. Obviously, you know, Betty's boyfriend who took the fucking knife underneath the jawline. You see the blade right inside his mouth. Then he got stabbed to death repeatedly. And also Julia, who got fucked up. And she swallowed the necklace somehow. And then this motherfucker decided to like perform some crazy autopsy on her throat to take the necklace out, man.
I'm glad they didn't show it. And actually, hearing the sound was very Tobe Hooper. Him clipping and them not showing it is very Tobe Hooper, where you don't need to see it. Your mind is going to see it all just by this sound. It was like the sound that makes when I'm cutting like the back of the chicken with them, like the bones crunching. Oh, it was, and just because you knew what he was cutting into is the other part, is that, you know, he's like going through her larynx, everything in there to pull that out. Because obviously she didn't swallow it into her stomach. Yeah. You know, she was dying. That one's another great shout out.
Yes. She took the time before she died to take his mask off.
Oh, yeah, that's where she fucked up. And even Betty was like, no, fucking come get me. Let me help you here. Yeah. And like every typical movie, I'm gonna see who it is. And it does not turn out well for you when you do that. Before we wrap it up, I do want to say one thing, because you had mentioned Betty's boyfriend. The actor is William McNamara. He's actually an American actor. He was the killer in the movie Copycat. So when he was speaking, I know what his voice sounds like.
Oh, the dubbing. Oh my God.
Oh my God. So for me, honestly, I was glad he died, because I was having a hard time when I know what he sounds like in English. If he was acting in this movie, why didn't they just have him use his own voice? You know, so they dubbed an English voice over an English voice.
Now that you say that, you're right. There was the name escapes me. I read back. There was an actor here who got pretty upset because when they saw the final film, they noticed their voice was completely dubbed over. And they were suspicious because while they were filming, there was no boom mics to be found. So they're not recording sound. So he's like, wait, what the hell? That's kind of weird. And they dubbed over him. The dubbing was atrocious.
It was not great.
I love the character of Betty. She's a beautiful soprano, man. Her voice was awesome. I thought it was hers, the actress. She was dubbed over as well. Good lip syncing, by the way. So much passion and emotion goes into opera, and this soundtrack was great. But I will say, man, this movie kind of fell apart for me when they got to that extra act, when it's revealed that, oh no, the inspector is still alive.
Still alive, yeah.
Which is okay, but then the rock music that was interjected in this movie, it didn't fit. It made no sense. I don't understand. Why would Argento put such a bad track over such great visuals? Yeah. I hated that. So while I love the film, I think it should have ended the way I thought it ended, where the killer has her strapped to a chair, he burns himself, she's gonna get burned alive, and then, you know, she gets rescued. I would have left it there, but once they revealed, no, it was a ploy, it was a dummy. They're over in fucking somewhere, and I don't know where the fuck they were. I
think they were in Germany.
Was it Austria or some shit like that? So
something like that.
Yeah, that's Marco's place. By the way, the actor who played Marco passed away shortly after this film too, from AIDS. Yeah, that. But man, yeah, that rock music, not even rock, that heavy metal, but the bad kind.
Metal thrash.
And I always tell you, man, I love metal, but keep it out of my horror films, especially an Italian horror film like this. Come on, for demons it works, but for something like this, it felt out of place.
I'm so glad you said that, man. When The Rock came on, I'm like,
oh man.
I know that the thing is, it's been slightly winning you over a little bit, only because it's very prevalent in the Italian genre as far as their horror movies.
I want to differentiate this. I don't mind, like say The Beyond had a rock soundtrack. It was original, live musicians playing to the film. This is not that. This is just they took some generic metal track and threw it over the film, and it didn't fit at all, man.
No,
it didn't fit.
and I didn't like the rock at all. Some of the kills should have been done to the music of the play because the Macbeth play is cursed. So when Shakespeare wrote this play, supposedly he had put in some spells, and some witches were not happy about that and cursed the play, which was something that Betty kept bringing up in the movie. So it's a cursed play. So why not just stick to the music from the Macbeth opera itself? First watch, loved it. This is another one that I would watch again. The way Dario put the audience in the place of Betty by watching the murders happen just as she's watching them. So highly, highly recommend this movie.
The way George Romero wrote the film Night Riders to kind of portray himself within that film structure, Dario Argento wrote this film as a way to have the character of Marco be his avatar. Because if you notice, a lot of the lines in this movie. So the scene when Marco's walking with the lady, I don't know if it's his assistant or some production assistant or whatever that is. And she's like, this turns you on, doesn't it? You're a sadist. That's the kind of shit people will tell Dario Argento all the time. Like, he's a sadist. His violence and his sex and his extreme graphic themes turn him on. And he was called a sadist before. So Marco, the character, that's Dario Argento. This was written in a way where it's almost as a biopic in a sense. It's, to kind of entail what Dario Argento is like and what he goes through when he's performing and producing films. This is the best I got. So I'm gonna put myself into this film, and that's how the character of Marco was created.
Marco's background, this was his first play that he was doing, was horror.
Yeah, he was a horror guy.
He was a horror guy. He was a horror guy. So now what you said totally freaking makes sense.
Yeah.
That he's, he definitely put himself in there to show what he's going through. Last thing before we wrap up. So it couldn't have been that easy. So showing that he was still alive did make a little sense. I did think that, oh shit, so he fucking flipped her. She's gonna become a killer like him. I didn't like when she walked away and just, laid down in the flowers and, what was it, a lizard that she rescued?
What's funny about that is I hated the whole ending sequence, but that part I did like when she lay down and she freed the lizard and said, "You are free." That's it. It's kind of basic.
It's meant to show that she's free.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for her. It was kind of okay.
I was waiting for her to go, "The hills are alive with the sound of music."
I feel you, bro. I feel you.
It was literally, and it was all leading up to that. What I was okay with, it was just honestly. Bitch. I know they captured him. He's not dead.
He's not dead.
First of all,
another thing.
He's not dead. He
got arrested.
He's just arrested. He got out of a fucking fire. He's been coming after you for a while. Why are you just all of a sudden gonna go, look, a lizard. I'm gonna free it.
Hey man, I got a soft spot for reptiles, bro.
I knew you did. And it's funny, I thought about you when she did that scene. And I'm like, Rick's gonna like this part. It's just her
I see your point,
laying down in the flowers.
You're right. Yeah, man, before we go, the last thing I want to point out is the camera work in this film. This movie, especially the scenes within the opera, it felt real time. Camera is constantly moving. It feels alive. It doesn't feel
You're following motion. You're following.
Yeah, it's not like, you don't get a panning shot. You don't get like, a medium shot. There's no long shot. There's no close-up. There's just one continuous shot. It feels alive. It ain't always smooth. It feels like a documentary in a sense that they're capturing this footage within the opera. By the way, this opera, even when she first started, when that guy was killed in the beginning, the light fell, and then when she was singing and they let the ravens out, it's not a good production, man. It's always some fucking technical issue happening. So I don't know.
Because it's the curse of Macbeth. No, that's what I say. It's the curse of Macbeth.
Yeah. The first time we actually saw the killer, as far as what he looked like, mask and all, it was through Betty's perspective when she was sticking back on it. Because whenever we saw the killer before that, it was always the POV, the gloves, typical Argento, which is a good thing. That's his style. But when we first saw what he looked like as far as the how he covered his face, the way he was concealed, it was through Betty's perspective. I think that was genius, bro.
It was the whole movie. Well, we're going back to Argento for the next one, guys. We said that we're doing the trilogy. We are going to be doing Inferno, so keep an eye out for that. We'll let you know when that's going to drop. From Joe the Psychologist, Rick. Dude, I love talking these Italian movies with you. So until next time, I am Joe the Psychologist, my brother Rick. Support Italian horror, and we will see you next time.